Did you know that increasing your GLP-1 dose every 4 weeks could be the biggest mistake that you're currently making and could actually be slowing down your weight loss? Or maybe you didn't know that eating less when your weight loss stalls also slows down your progress. See, those are just 2 things, but by the end of this video, you're gonna learn the top 10 things that are truly slowing down your GLP-1 weight loss results. If you're new to my channel, hi, I'm Dr. Jones DC. I've lost over 100 pounds myself personally. I yo-yoed for damn near a decade until I finally stabilized my long-term weight loss. And now I actually maintain an even leaner physique thanks to microdosing GLP-1 medications. I run a nationwide telemed health clinic right now, working with my medical practitioners, teaching people how to use GLP-1 medications correctly with microdosing, metabolic health strategies, and powerful peptides. But here's what's really crazy, guys. The biggest mistake that I see with GLP-1 dosing strategies isn't what you're eating or how much you're exercising or not exercising. Let me tell you about Jessica. She came to our clinic after struggling with that standard cookie cutter protocol for freaking 8 months, where they had her increasing her dose every 4 weeks. You guys know the drill. Her previous provider had her on that typical escalation, and she came to us. She was stuck on 10 milligrams of tirzepatide, but Jessica's weight loss had completely stalled, and they wanted her to increase to 12.5 milligrams, but she felt horrible. She was nauseous all the time, had low levels of energy and brain fog, felt cold, and worst of all, the scale wasn't budging. She stopped losing weight. Here's what was actually happening. The dose she was on was causing her to severely undereat, and her body went into a plateau. We call this starvation mode. The pharmaceutical companies designed these protocols for average people who don't push the right type of aggressive lifestyle intervention, so of course they have to keep increasing their dose, and that's why most clinicians would agree and have their patients doing this very cookie cutter template, because that's what they did in the trials. Our approach is simple. We find the minimum effective dose, the smallest amount that gives you appetite suppression and steady fat loss without any of those miserable side effects. This frees up your mind and allows you to implement those aggressive lifestyle interventions. So with Jessica, we did a metabolic reset and a medication reset. We had her started back at 2.5 milligrams. So this is literally between me and my medical practitioners. We slowly worked her dose down to 0. She was 3 weeks off the medication, and then she started back at 2.5 milligrams. By the time we worked her back to 5, she felt freaking amazing, and the weight loss was rolling. She said specifically 5 milligrams felt better for her than when she was on 10. So this is the power of the reset. Lower doses forces you to put in more effort with lifestyle interventions, and that's actually a good thing. When you optimize nutrition, manage stress, get all the basics in, lots of fasting, eating less carbohydrates, you don't need to continue to push those crazy high doses like you've been told. And I know this might sound like a shock to you, but the dosing schedule you're on, you can throw that out the door, because when you do things right, it's a completely different game. If this dosing strategy sounds very different than what you've heard before, but you're intrigued, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because I'm going to be dropping videos where I drop very specific details over all these different pieces that you're going to get exposed to today, so that you can get a much more comprehensive idea of what it looks like to do this right. Here's the part that most people miss completely: hidden inflammation. Let's talk about Maria, 45-year-old marketing executive. She was doing everything right. Good macros, hitting her protein, getting to the gym 5 days a week. She had worked her way up from 2.5 milligrams up to 10 milligrams of tirzepatide over a 6-month period. So she actually took her time with the dosing, unlike the rapid escalation that would have had her up there much sooner. But here's the crazy part. She only lost 10 pounds, and when she needed to lose closer to 100. 10 pounds in 6 months on a high dose of tirzepatide, that's freaking madness. And that's also frustrating and depressing. And I know a lot of you guys watching this can freaking relate. Her previous doctors kept telling her to be patient, that we need to keep increasing the dose, and she was very patient and she wanted to do it slower, but this is the only option they gave her. Sound familiar? He ran basic labs, everything looked normal. Her thyroid, TSH, was in range, but Maria was frustrated and feeling desperate, and that's when she came to us. We ran our comprehensive inflammatory panels. Her C-reactive protein was elevated at 8.2, normal should be under 3. Her ESR was also high at 35, normal for women is under 20. These elevated numbers told us Maria's immune system was in overdrive, creating chronic inflammation throughout her body. as we dug deeper and found out, we ran some additional labs, turns out she had Hashimoto's thyroiditis. This is an autoimmune condition where your immune system is literally attacking your thyroid gland. It creates a lot of inflammation. Her thyroid antibodies were sky high, and that's actually how we were able to diagnose her, because we ran the freaking proper tests. Her other doctors, they never ran those comprehensive labs. Here's what most doctors miss. Chronic inflammation blocks your body's ability to burn fat efficiently. The way that it does this is ultimately driving up your insulin resistance. It doesn't matter how perfect your GLP-1 protocol is, if your immune system is wonky, your inflammation is high, you're going to have problems. Autoimmune conditions like Hashimoto's, rheumatoid arthritis, even food sensitivities and allergies can cause constant inflammatory states, and this will drive your insulin resistance and make it much harder for you to fix your metabolic health. We started Maria on a low dose of naltrexone, a powerful medication that's growing in popularity here in the anti-aging space. It is going to massively reduce inflammation and calm down that overactive immune system. We also put her on some powerful peptides, BBC157 and KPV. These peptides also reduce inflammation and improve gut health. We put her on a flexible carnivore diet because I remember her specifically saying, there's no way I'm gonna be able to do a strict carnivore. So we met in the middle and did a flexible approach, and her inflammation reduced, her energy returned, her weight loss started again. This wasn't just getting her back onto weight loss, folks. This was actually making her feel significantly better, because inflammation will make you feel like crap. The comprehensive approach that we took by reducing inflammation got her back on track. We optimized many other aspects, including her supplements too as well, doing as many things as we possibly can to reduce her inflammation, got her back onto some essential fatty acids, and put her vitamin D back to the essential levels where it should be. Here's what I want you to understand. If you're stuck, despite doing everything else right, inflammation might be the missing piece. Standard doctors often don't test for it properly, and you need more comprehensive inflammatory markers, not just basic labs. But even if you fix that inflammation, there's one tool that you're probably avoiding that can unlock everything: strategic fasting. Let me tell you about Sarah, a 42-year-old nurse who had PCOS and needed to lose about 80 pounds. She had been on Mounjaro for 6 months and was only losing 2 to 3 pounds per month. And at that rate, it would have taken her over freaking 2 years to reach her goal. Sarah was terrified of fasting because her previous doctors told her to avoid it with PCOS. They said it would mess up her hormones even more. I had explained to Sarah that fasting on GLP-1 medications is completely different, especially when you add AOD 9604, powerful fat mobilizing peptide, which essentially reduces the stress of longer fasting periods. So we get the benefit of the fast without the harm, which when you have PCOS, this is a big deal. The combination protects your muscle mass and amplifies the fat burning without the hormonal stress that the doctors were freaking worried about. We had Sarah start with 16-hour fasting windows, took her a couple weeks to get comfortable with that, supported by the AOD, and then we implemented the strategic flow approach where we got her into weekly longer fast. Eventually we got her into 24 hours. And this was on a weekly basis, mind you. Sarah went from losing 2 to 3 pounds per month to losing 2 pounds per week. And she was actually gaining strength in the gym, and maintaining strength and or gaining is one of the easiest ways to know that you're protecting that precious muscle mass. And we're gonna talk a lot more about muscle mass here in a bit. Here's the truth, guys. Strategic fasting creates massive improvement in insulin resistance, inflammation, and it triggers this amazing process called cellular autophagy. And when you combine fasting with GLP-1s, the results are often dramatic. Listen to your body. Don't let fear hold you back from one of the most effective fat loss strategies that we have found: long form fasting, aka flow. Now, if you want a deeper dive into insulin resistance and how it's sabotaging your weight loss, I did a whole video breaking that down. Check that out right there. That's the thumbnail, and I'll put a link into the description. Fasting really does get to the root cause of the problem here: insulin resistance. But if you're doing the next thing with regards to your carbohydrate intake, you are sabotaging your results and making it that much more challenging. Look, I'm not going to tell you that carbs are evil. I know you probably would change the channel right now if I told you you got to cut carbs out entirely. Look, I eat carbs on a regular basis, and it sucks going keto. I've been there. I've done that. It doesn't last long term, and I know many of you guys have probably tried it. But if you're trying to lose fat and you're dealing with insulin resistance, which most of you are, which is why GLP-1s work so freaking well, eating those large amount of carbohydrates are working against you. Every time you eat carbohydrates, your blood sugar spikes. Your pancreas releases insulin to bring it back down, and insulin is your body's primary fat storage hormone. Your fat cells literally, despite caloric balance, cannot get fatter without the presence of elevated insulin. I'd like to quote Dr. Ben Beekman, very prominent metabolic fat cell scientist who specifically does research into this, and he has done a lot of recent research really diving into and better understanding exactly how fat cells actually get more fat. And at the end of the day, it is all from insulin. Elevated insulin levels will make you become insulin resistant, and when you're insulin resistant, now your insulin levels are elevated even despite what you're eating or not eating. I recommend to patients typically to stick under 50 grams of net carbs for the first 3 to 6 months. Focus on those carbohydrates coming from vegetables and a small amount of low glycemic fruits, think berries. Now, a lot of those keto advocates are going to tell you that you need to cut out your carbs entirely. And this would be true if it wasn't for the genius design of the flow protocol and the long form fasting. The long form fasting, I have found, allows you to have much more flexibility in your diet. And at the end of the day, having some wiggle room is going to make this a lot easier for you to be successful long term. I've had 1,000 patient testimonials back that up. What happens when you do this? Your insulin resistance decreases, inflammation drops, fat loss accelerates, even on that same lower dose. Remember, the dose is so important, and this strategy is all about keeping you on the lowest dose possible and causing you just to put a little bit more effort in. Look, we want to make it easy, but we also want this to last, and I know that that's what you're looking to do as well. Cutting carbohydrates is powerful, but when fat loss stalls, most people do this next part completely wrong. They freaking eat even less or exercise more. I had a patient named Lisa who was eating about 1,200 calories before starting with us and had lost 40 pounds that way until she hit a plateau. The scale hadn't moved in 6 weeks. So what did Lisa want to do? She wanted to add more cardio and increase her freaking dose. She felt way worse and had a bunch of different symptoms: tiredness, brain fog, constipation, feeling cold, achy body. This is zombie mode. This is survival mode. This is what happens when your body is under eating over an extended period of time. The classic mistake that most people make is thinking that if you decrease your intake more or you increase your exercise, you burn more calories, that's the solution. And yes, that will work on the short term, most likely, but on the long term, you are going to make that problem even bigger. You're going to go into a deeper metabolic plateau, and you're going to feel likely a lot worse than you do now. Here's what we did to get Lisa on the right track. We had to do what's called a metabolic reset, where we worked on increasing her calories back to 2,000 over a 3 to 6 week period. A lot of focus on resistance training, and we took our time, about a 200 to 300 calorie increase 1 week at a time. This gave her metabolism enough time to detect that we're no longer starving and to slowly crank up the metabolism. And like clockwork, at the end of the reset, she was eating twice as much food, she felt significantly better, and she actually lost 2 pounds in that process. Then we were able to get her back into the calorie deficit via the flow protocol, and she lost another 15 pounds. The key is understanding that stalls are normal and temporary. Your body is just recalibrating. Don't panic, don't slash calories, figure out where you're at, and likely for many of you watching this, you are significantly under eating, and a metabolic reset is going to be the main and really only solution that I've seen to work after coaching thousands of patients long term to get you back on track. If you're struggling with the weight loss plateau and you're freaking tired and fed up and you want personalized help and you want to work with me and or my medical practitioners, we do offer free consultations. I'll put that link in the description. Click that form, get yourself scheduled, meet with one of my experts, and I'd love an opportunity to get you back on track and make sure that this is the last weight loss program you ever have to do. Now, here's where I see people absolutely sabotaging their results: muscle mass and protein intake. Every single time I have a call, there's at least one patient on my group calls that has a problem with lifting weights. They freaking think they're going to get bulky or something ridiculous like that. I'm thinking of this patient, Jennifer. She was 42 years old. She was a mother, and she hated the idea of lifting weights. She came to us after losing 35 pounds. She was super frustrated because she felt soft and flabby. Her thought was, I would just rebuild the muscle later on. She was getting maybe 60 to 70 grams of protein per day, doing endless cardio, and finally hit a point when she realized, okay, I'm doing something wrong. We had to sit down and really get Jennifer to understand what most people don't. When you're on a GLP-1, you are going to lose muscle mass along with the fat. That's inevitable. And a lot of people blame the medication, but the reality is it's not doing proper resistance training and not consuming adequate protein. The protein is simple. Just get 1 gram per pound of target body weight. So if you're trying to get to 150 pounds, that's 150 grams of protein. And you can easily achieve that by just having protein every single meal. But with the weight training, number one, you have to commit to to lifting weights at least 3 times a week, 45-minute sessions would be great, but you got to go in there with the mentality of breaking down that muscle tissue. Resistance training, it's called hypertrophy training. And the best advice I can give any one of you watching this video, if you feel overwhelmed or you have no idea what the hell you're doing, get a personal trainer, 5 to 10 sessions at a gym that you have access to, and it will completely change your comfort level and make this a reality and something that you can just implement into your routine. And here's the best part. After we got Jennifer lifting weights, she fell in love with it. She realized that getting stronger made everything in her life easier, carrying groceries, playing with her kids, and feeling confident in her own skin. Even if you're training right, there's one test that gets missed almost every single time. Most doctors will only test TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, and they look for that marker to tell a story. And based off of that one marker, they're either going to tell you your thyroid's fine or it's not. But that's like checking your car speedometer and assuming the entire engine is working perfectly. TSH is just one piece of a very confusing thyroid puzzle. Let me explain what each test actually tells you. So TSH measures how hard your brain is working to stimulate your thyroid. Think of it like your brain shouting to your thyroid to either work harder or to work less. Free T4 is your storage thyroid hormone. It's like having money in the bank, but you can't spend it yet. Free T3 is your active thyroid hormone that is actually controlling your metabolism. This is like having cash in your wallet that you can actually use. Reverse T3 blocks thyroid function at the cellular level. So imagine having cash, but someone put glue on it so you can't spend it. That's what reverse T3 does. And then finally, thyroid antibodies are what allows us to diagnose a very common autoimmune disease that we talked about earlier, Hashimoto's. I've seen countless patients with normal TSH. Remember, with your standard medical doctors, all they're going to test is TSH. They're not checking free T3, free T4, reverse T3, none of those extra markers. So basically, you either get diagnosed for thyroid or you don't. And for many of you, you have the classic symptoms despite what the TSH says. Let's do a quick assessment. If you have 3 or more of these symptoms, you likely need thyroid help. Tiredness, brain fog, constipation, feeling cold, achy body, hair loss, brittle skin and nails, oily skin. If you look at those symptoms and you have 3 or 4 or more of them, if that sounds like you, then you need to demand comprehensive thyroid testing. Don't accept the standard TSH as a normal test if you have those symptoms. Or you can always go to us because we service all 50 states and we can get you a local test at your Quest or LabCorp. Just shoot us a text message by clicking that link in the bio. Here's what happens when your thyroid isn't optimized. Your metabolism slows down significantly. You feel tired all the time. Your body temperature drops, weight loss becomes nearly impossible, even with the perfect diet and exercise. But when your thyroid is functioning optimally, you start losing weight again, and all those symptoms we talked about earlier, they start to go away. But even if your labs are perfect and there's no thyroid issues, your body might still be locked into fat storage mode because of this next mistake. 3 years ago, I was maintaining my weight loss perfectly on a microdose GLP-1 medication, tirzepatide, like I am now, but currently today I'm using retatrutide. Everything was going smoothly with my life and the practice, and we were growing. At that time, I had physical locations. We were doing a lot of services that were covered by Medicare insurance, and out of nowhere, Medicare just stopped paying for our services. I know this might sound wild to you guys, but this is actually a practice that Medicare does that can literally bankrupt doctors, and it damn near bankrupted us. We had to continue treating patients, but we were getting no income whatsoever from Medicare. Talk about stress. I kept thinking, how can they do this? We're trying to sit here and get people healthier. We're following all the rules. How can they just stop paying us? The financial stress was crushing me. We were hemorrhaging money every single month, and I was doing everything I possibly can to keep the doors open. So my cortisol levels were through the roof. I didn't need anybody else. I didn't need a test. I just knew that this was a very abnormal point in my life with crazy things going on. And so despite being on a microdose, I started gaining weight. This can happen with no changes in your diet because there's new levels of stress in your life, which will cause cortisol levels to spike. And that can have compounding effect that ultimately affects your weight. I realized something crucial. Chronic stress is very, very powerful at the fat storage signal, which can make things very challenging for you. When you're constantly stressed, your cortisol levels stay elevated. High levels of cortisol create high levels of blood sugar, and high levels of blood sugar lead to higher levels of insulin, which ultimately leads down the path of insulin resistance. Increases your appetite for sugary fatty foods, foods shifts your body into fat storage mode, including belly fat, and it makes it incredibly difficult, even with GLP-1s. But here's the part that really shocked me. Stress interfered with how well the microdosing and everything else that I was doing was actually working for me. That's how powerful chronically elevated cortisol levels can do. So you gotta do something to manage your stress. I had to make some hard choices here. I hired a building company to fight Medicare. I started saying no to opportunities that would drain me more of energy. I had to get my shit together. And many of you are dealing with stress in your life and trying to focus on things like losing weight, but ultimately you need to handle these stressors in your life because it's going to make weight loss a damn near impossibility. The lesson here, you can't out supplement or out medicate chronic stress. If you're constantly overwhelmed, anxious, or burnt out, your body will fight against you no matter what else you have to do. So you're going to have to do everything in your power to reorganize that stress and make your life less stressful. You can add some powerful stress management techniques like mindfulness, journaling, drawing, any sort of protocol that helps you get relaxed closer to bedtime. And then there's also some powerful adaptogenic herbs as well. But at the end of the day, nothing is going to work, or very likely it won't work, unless you can target your stressful situation and make it less stressful. Now, here's what's fascinating. There's one thing that can destroy everything that we just talked about. Let's talk about sleep, because poor sleep is like a metabolic poison. It disrupts with every hormone pathway that's involved with weight regulation and just overall quality of life. When you don't get enough quality sleep, several things happen. Leptin levels drop. That's a hormone that tells your body when it's full, so you don't feel as satisfied anymore with eating. Hunger increases. Your hunger hormones like ghrelin actually increase, so that's a double whammy too as well. Cortisol levels stay elevated, and we talked about how bad cortisol is promoting fat storage, and your insulin resistance gets worse, all from not getting enough sleep. Here's what most people don't realize. Sleep quality matters just as much as sleep quantity. You can get 8 hours in bed and still wake up exhausted if you're not getting enough deep restorative sleep. I see this constantly with our patients. They'll be doing everything perfectly, but they're only getting 5 to 6 hours of broken sleep every single night. Their weight loss stalls, their energy crashes, and they can't figure out why. If you're in a situation like this, then here's exactly what you need to do. First, keep a consistent sleep schedule within 30 minutes every single night. This is hands down, if you took away one sleep strategy, the most important thing to do. Sleep on a schedule. Me and my fiance go to bed at 9 and we wake up at 5 every single night. And on the weekends, we do push that out about 1 hour, but that's it. And I'll tell you, once I really got used to this schedule, like 3 to 5 years ago, I believe, it's classic, it's second nature, and my energy improved dramatically. Second thing I need you to do is keep your bedroom at least 67 degrees or cooler. This might seem cold, but your body temperature needs to drop in order to trigger deep sleep. You can get a cooling pad or use a local AC unit in your room, or if you can, and you're lucky enough to just cool down the entire house, whatever you need to do. Third, dim all the lights 2 hours before bed. Blue light from screens, overhead lights, even your alarm clock can mess with your melatonin production, and melatonin is a key hormone that makes you sleepy, and blue light basically tells your brain, hey, it's daylight time. So block as much light as you possibly can and create this habit before bedtime, and I recommend setting an alarm clock 2 hours before your bedtime to make this easy. For many of our patients, implementing these 3 simple changes is a missing piece that unlocks everything else. Energy levels improve, appetite normalizes, and fat loss accelerates. Don't underestimate this piece. If you're not prioritizing 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep every night, you're fighting an uphill battle against your own hormones. Now that we've handled the biology, but even with the perfect plan, none of it sticks unless you master this final component. For damn near 10 years, I was stuck in a vicious cycle because I lost 100 pounds when I was 16 years old. And every single year after that, I would lose 30, I would gain back 50, I would lose 50, I would gain back 60, constantly back and forth. I thought I was broken. I thought I just didn't have enough willpower. The breakthrough for me came when I realized I was approaching weight loss with a completely wrong mindset. I made excuses for myself like everybody else. I was treating it like a temporary project instead of a lifestyle change, a permanent lifestyle change that I needed to prioritize above everything else. I was looking for the fastest results instead of sustainable progress. I was trying to be perfect instead of being consistent. I didn't have systems in place. You can have the right mindset, but you gotta have systems behind to drive those goals. Most importantly, I was focused on what I couldn't have instead of what I was gaining. The shift for me happened when I stopped seeing myself as someone who was on a diet and started seeing myself as someone who was getting healthy. Prioritizing my health was extremely important after I made this shift, but not before. I stopped counting days days until I could go back to normal. And I started building a new normal, a routine that consisted of lifestyle interventions that made all the difference. This wasn't just a mindset fluff. It's a fundamental viewpoint shift, all about long-term success. And I promise when you do this, your brain will always try to return back to old patterns unless you genuinely change your identity. Instead of, I'm trying to lose weight, start thinking, I'm someone who cares for their health. Instead of, I can't eat that, think, I don't need to eat that because it doesn't align with my goals. The goal isn't just to lose weight, it's to become the type of person who naturally maintains a healthy weight. And that happens from permanent lifestyle interventions. Someone who enjoys nutritious food, someone who moves their body regularly, specifically prioritizing resistance training, someone who prioritizes sleep, manages stress. When you make that identity shift, the behaviors become automatic. And that's what we're looking to do. We're looking to make this become automatic, no differently than brushing your teeth. I hope nobody has an issue with brushing their teeth. You don't have to rely on willpower anymore because you're just doing what comes naturally to the person you've become. And that's what separates temporary results from permanent transformation. So let's recap on some of the big ones for you. Fix your dosing strategy. Find your minimum effective dosing strategy instead of pushing to the maximum. Use strategic fasting to supercharge the pathway to becoming insulin sensitive, address inflammation and autoimmune diseases, and stop responding to stalls by freaking eating less and exercising more. Here's what I want you to understand. You're not broken. You haven't failed. You've just been misled by outdated protocols and one-size-fits-all approaches that don't work for most people. The right approach is to implement lifestyle changes with the lowest dose possible, fixing the metabolism, addressing root causes. This will transform your results. And I want you to know that I see it every single day with our patients. We work with patients in all 50 states, combining GLP-1s with strategic reset plans to get them through plateaus. If you're ready to stop spinning your wheels and start getting some real results, the link will be in the show notes as well as on the main page. And if you enjoyed watching this video, then you need to watch this video about insulin resistance. It's the missing piece that explains all the things that we talked about. Most of them can be traced back to insulin resistance. And so if you want a deep scientific backbone to make this video more powerful, check it out and we'll see you guys later.